I am so fed up with all of the reforms offered by our politicians, whether it's to reform immigration or to reform health care. What they're really doing is adding one law on top of another bad law. The word reform itself means improvement. Well, I've got some reforms for the politicians themselves that I want to share with you tonight. Also, a personal message to each of our elected officials. Pull up a chair and join me. We need to reform immigration. We need to reform health care. We've got a lot more to do. I think we have a lot more to undo. And I am absolutely fed up with politicians coming up with reform after reform after reform. You know, whenever a politician says that they want to reform something, you know what they really want to do? What they really want to do is intervene. They want to put up more obstacle courses. They want to put more regulations, more laws on us. That's what they call reform. Take immigration, for example. Right now, the executive branch, the president, is not even enforcing the immigration laws. And you know what? Our last president didn't do a very good job either. It's not a partisan thing. The problem is the president who is charged with enforcing the laws is not enforcing the law. And now the government says to us, well, you know what? We need to reform the law. I say this. How about you enforce the current law before you talk about changing any law? The word reform is a word that politicians love to use. But remember, reform means improvement. What they are doing is using the word reform when they're talking about laws. And here's what I think. I don't think we need any more laws. As a matter of fact, I think we need to start repealing laws. If we need reform, it is on one thing. It is on the politicians themselves. And I have some political reforms that, if I were the king, I would implement immediately. In fact, by happy hour tomorrow, we would have these reforms in place. And I want to run by them with you, run some of them by with you. And also, I've got some messages for our elected officials. Very personal messages from to Rick Scott, to President of the Senate Don Gates, to Representative Steve Sutherland, to Senator Marco Rubio. I want to talk about what you have done recently and why it's going to cost you and what we really need you to do. Political reforms that matter, and I mean no Bolshevik reforms, and a personal message to our elected officials coming up in just a moment. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by Mace Tech. Protect yourself against prying eyes. Keep your computer and your smartphone safe. MaceTechSecurity.com. If you need to re-roof your home or have new construction, call my friends at Art Construction for a licensed and insured roofing contractor. 215-3948. Panama City Barbershop, where I get my hair cut. A traditional barbershop, not a beauty salon. By the Water Tower on Highway 231.
Hi, I'm Darrell Day.
And I'm Burnie Thompson.
You know, we both proudly served our nation in uniform.
And we still serve today on the radio, expanding freedom and protecting the family budget.
And using the airwaves to educate, enlighten, and entertain, and sometimes irritate.
So join us every day and link arms, and let's do our part to restore this republic.
Join me each morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
And join me from 11 to 2 on Talk Radio 101.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Katie.
Is your check engine light on?
At Gears, we will check it for free.
Don't pay for a diagnostics.
At Gears, we will check it for free.
Transmission services for $49.95.
Free shuttle service in our Gears limo.
Come let my daddy fix your car.
If you need your car worked on, take it where I get my car worked on. Gears Transmissions, whether it's your engine, your brakes, or a $49 transmission special, Gears Transmissions will take care of you. And you know you're never going to get upsold, you're never going to get swindled, and you'll get to meet my friend Jay. My good friend Jay, who, by the way, if you like what we're doing here on the Whiskey Rebellion, this is part of Gears Productions. Gears Transmissions you can find online at gearstransmissions.com or in Panama City near the mall, just about a mile up 231 toward Interstate 10. On your left, it's right by the Dollar General. I've got some reform ideas for the reformers, for the politicians who keep talking about why we need to reform this or that. We need to reform the politicians, and I have 10 for you, and I'd like to know what you think about them if you'll email me at the email listed below. How about this one? And I like this one. Any law that does not do what it says it's going to do, if a law is passed and it does the opposite of what its stated purpose is, it should self-destruct, and anybody who sponsored it or voted for it should be forced to resign. Let me give you an example. How about the Affordable Care Act? Is it affordable? No. It did the opposite of what the creators, the sponsors, and those who voted for it said it would do. The Affordable Care Act is unaffordable, and it's doing everything opposite of what it said. There's no argument left anymore. I can't get a Democrat because, by the way, this particular bill, Obamacare, which is now, they say, the law of the land, was passed only by Democrats. Do you know it's the first one that I can think of, the first major law in American history that was completely partisan. If you like bipartisanship, you should hate the Affordable Care Act because not a single Republican voted for the Affordable Care Act. That's unaffordable. That law does the opposite of what it said it was going to do. They promised it would create 4 million jobs. They promised it would save families $2,500. They promised that we could keep our health plans if we liked our health plans. Guess what? All of those were lies. And that law should self-destruct, just like those old Mission Impossible tapes. You remember those? That's exactly what should happen to any law that does the opposite of what its stated purpose is. And everybody who pushed for it should be forced to resign. Now, do you think if we did that, that maybe we would get some better laws? Do you maybe think we would get fewer laws? Any law that does the opposite of what its stated purpose is should self-destruct. How about this one? The You First Amendment. If you think Obamacare is so great, you do it first. Something is bad wrong when the person it's named after refuses to get on the torture rack itself. Barack Obama and his family, they refused to get on Obamacare. That means that the rule of law has been supplanted by the law of rulers. You think government schools are so great? You send your kids to them first. The You First Amendment would be the second government reform that I would implement. How about schools, public schools? Do you want to know how you could improve public schools in Washington, D.C.? You'd send them more money and more teachers. No, that's not what you would do. Instead, what you would do is you would have the president's kids and all of the Congress members' kids attend the schools in Washington, D.C., and then they would improve. And that's the only way they would improve. Why? Because they would have skin in the game. That's why. As long as their kids go to private schools and they don't go to government schools, you're not going to have any improvement in government schools, but you're going to have a whole lot more rhetoric about it. How about that? The You First Amendment. You like the law that you put on us? You go first. And if it's so good, then maybe we the people will follow. How about this for a government reform? Not another penny. The Congress members, if you're in the House of Reprehensibles, for example, do you know that every time they open their paycheck every 2 weeks, it's about $8,000? You know, kind of like yours. $8,000 for a U.S. representative? First of all, I think those jobs are far too attractive. But I would do this. They haven't operated on a budget in 5 years. In this fundamentally transformed United States of America, one of the words that we've had to learn is continuing resolutions. That's one of the terms we've had to learn. They talk about this all the time up in Washington. We've got to work on the CR, the CR. Do you know what the CR is? It means instead of a budget, they're shooting from the hip. They're just making it up as they go. And there is absolutely no spending restraint. One of the first jobs that Congress has is to pass a budget. And guess what they never do? Pass a budget. If you went your job without doing what you were supposed to do for years, Do you think you'd just keep getting a paycheck? And I propose not another penny to any member of Congress in the House or in the Senate until they pass a budget, a balanced budget with no new taxes. Not another penny. How about this one? Number 4, no bill longer than the Constitution. Here's my pocket Constitution. And in this pocket Constitution, it's only about 34 pages. This is the supreme law of the land, and it's only 34 pages. One of the reasons that they can pass 2,700 page bills is because we don't have anything to limit it. Imagine this. If we had a law that said no bill could be longer than the U.S. Constitution, we wouldn't have Bolshevik like this. This is a random page out of the Affordable Care Act. Are you ready? This is section 3201C2. The applicable percentage increase that would apply to a qualifying plan in the area under subsection O, as if any reference in such subsection to 2012 were deemed a reference to 2010, and as if the determination of a qualifying county under paragraph 3B of subsection were made for 2010. What? Does anybody understand this? No. But if no bill was longer than the U.S. Constitution, mine's only 34 pages, all of the bills would have to be written so that you and I could understand them. And they couldn't attach a bunch of stuff to them. Now you see why Will Rogers said that lawyers write so endless others in his craft can make a living trying to figure out what the other one said. Is it any wonder that Washington has been overrun by lawyers? We should have a political reform that says no bill can be longer than the U.S. Constitution. There's no reason for any bill to be longer than the U.S. Constitution, the supreme law of the land. And another thing, the bills should be written by the legislators themselves. They need to stop farming these things out to lawyers to write them. 2,700 pages of Obamacare that nobody can understand. It was a boon to attorneys, and it was a boon to the insurance companies. The definitions and what this means is going to be determined over the next decade through court cases. We'll be right back. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by Mace Tech. Encrypt your data before it goes online to make sure nobody else sees it. MaceTechSecurity.com. If you need to re-roof your home or have new construction, call my friends at Art Construction for a licensed and insured roofing contractor. 215-3948. Shore House Furniture, the largest showroom for coastal and fine furniture on the beach. On Back Beach Road, about a mile east of Pier Park.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Katie. At Gears, we're proud to offer you a complete transmission service starting at $49.95.
We also offer free shuttle service in our Gears limo.
Lifetime warranties.
Transmission services for $49.95.
Come let my daddy fix your car.
Hi, I'm Daryl Day.
And I'm Burnie Thompson.
You know, we both proudly served our nation in uniform.
And we still serve today on the radio, expanding freedom and protecting the family budget.
And using the airwaves to educate, enlighten, and entertain, and sometimes irritate.
So join us every day and link arms, and let's do our part to restore this republic.
Join me each morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
And join me from 11 to 2 on Talk Radio 101. Let's expand freedom and protect the family budget. You and me, right here every week. And if you like what we're doing, drop me a line at myfreedomradio.com. That's where you can email me and let me know your thoughts. On the Burnie Thompson Show, a Gears production. Here's another political reform that would matter. How about we repeal the 17th Amendment? The 17th Amendment was put in about 100 years ago, in 1913. And what it did was, instead of state legislators appointing the U.S. senators, the 2 U.S. senators that we send to Washington, what we did instead is we had them elected by popular vote like the House members. That was a big mistake. What the founders did in our bicameral Congress is they set up a House of Representatives, 435 members, to represent you and me, to represent the people, and we get to vote on them directly. But they also set up a U.S. Senate, with each state, big or small, getting 2 U.S. senators, and the state legislators would appoint them. That way, Congress represented the states and the people. Right now, nobody's representing the states. Do you know if the state legislators appointed the U.S. senators, there would be no Obamacare, because the states would never allow the federal government to force states to pay so much more to implement federal acts. Right now, we don't have anybody representing the states in Washington. And if we repealed the 17th Amendment and went back to having state legislators appoint U.S. senators, that would restore checks and balances, and it would give representation to the states as well as the people. It's a very big deal. How about this one? The Enumerated Powers Act. That means if it's not listed in the Constitution, they can't do it. The Constitution, the supreme law of the land, gives the federal government limited powers, only powers that are listed in there. The Enumerated Powers Act would go a long way to reeling back in our out-of-control federal government. How about this? End judicial review. Does it make any sense at all that one of the 3 branches of the federal government has the final say over whether something is constitutional or not? That makes no sense at all, that the federal government would decide what's constitutional. Here's what the Supreme Court ought to do. It ought to opine, to give its opinion about federal laws and whether or not they are constitutional. But too often, as we have seen, the Supreme Court has become the final arbiter. They rule. Nobody should rule over free people, not even the Supreme Court. Judicial review should end. How about this? Enforce the Supremacy Clause. That is Article 6 of the Constitution, and here's what it says. The Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and every bill and act that comes out of Washington must be pursuant to it. If they make up a law or a bill that has nothing, that is not listed in here, then it is null and void. The Supremacy Clause says that all bills and laws must be pursuant to the Constitution and cannot contradict the supreme law of the land. That is a very big deal. The 10th Amendment is a big issue these days, and for good reason. How about this political reform on politicians? A sales tax only. We should end all forms of taxation other than a sales tax, because a consumption tax is the fairest tax of all. It would ensure that everybody participates, everybody pays taxes, and no longer could taxes be used by politicians to control our behavior. Taxes should never be used to control our behavior, and they certainly should never be used to steal from dead people. Are you kidding me? A death tax, a property tax, these are evil, and we should get rid of all forms of taxation, and the IRS should be kicked to the curb. There should be no such thing. There should be one tax and one tax only, and that is on what we buy. That would be a fair tax. Think about property taxes. Essentially, you paid your taxes when you bought the property. After that, you are essentially leasing your property from the government. These are political reforms that would make a big difference. Unlike the ones that the politicians keep offering us, I also have a message for each of our elected officials, starting with Governor Rick Scott. Governor Scott, the day before you were elected, you sat right in front of me in the Liberty Lounge on Talk Radio 101. And I told you, you're going to win. And you promised me that we would be blood brothers for freedom. You said that you would expand freedom and protect the family budget. And I told you that very day, you're going to win, Rick Scott. And from here on out, that day before the election, I said, I'm going to call you governor. And I did. And you won. And Bay County, out of all of the counties in Florida, all 67, Bay County lifted you higher than any other county. And we're a little disappointed to hear that you are looking to expand Medicaid. That's a bad move, Governor Scott, because that means you're flip-flopping on your number one promise that you would stand athwart Obamacare. Saying that we need to, here's the argument that they're giving us, by the way. They're saying, Burnie, there's a glitch in Obamacare, and hardworking people like housekeepers and veterans, they are not able to get the subsidies required for Obamacare. So what is their answer? To get $51 billion from the federal government? The federal government doesn't have $51 billion. They borrow 45 cents on every dollar that they spend. So what we ought to do is, instead of saying that Obamacare is too expensive and therefore the federal government is going to fund the difference, subsidize the difference, you ought to spend all of your time telling the federal government that we're not going to follow that. We're not going to follow Obamacare. We should nullify Obamacare. It is absolutely insane to say that it is so expensive and painful that we need to subsidize more of it. Governor Scott. And we also are a little fed up with you spending so much time speaking on behalf of the people of Venezuela. While that is very important, I suggest that you listen to the people of Florida first and foremost. Now, when we get back, I have a personal message for Senate President Don Gates. I have a personal message for State Representative Jimmy Patronis, also Senator Marco Rubio, and finally, U.S. Representative Steve Sutherland. I'm going to tell you what they've been up to lately as opposed to what they promised us, and a little message for each of them from us coming right up.
The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by Mace Tech. Protect yourself against prying eyes. Keep your computer and your smartphone safe. MaceTechSecurity.com. If you need to re-roof your home or have new construction, call my friends at Art Construction for a licensed and insured roofing contractor. 215-3948. Panama City Barbershop, where I get my hair cut. A traditional barbershop, not a beauty salon. By the Water Tower on Highway 231.
Hi, I'm Darrell Day.
And I'm Burnie Thompson.
You know, we both proudly served our nation in uniform.
And we still serve today on the radio, expanding freedom and protecting the family budget.
And using the airwaves to educate, enlighten, and entertain, and sometimes irritate.
So join us every day and link arms, and let's do our part to restore this republic.
Join me each morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
And join me from 11 to 2 on Talk Radio 101.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Katie.
Is your check engine light on?
At Gears, we will check it for free.
Don't pay for a diagnostics.
At Gears, we will check it for free.
Transmission services for $49.95.
Free shuttle service in our Gears limo.
Come let my daddy fix your car.
If you need your car worked on, take it where I get my car worked on. Gears Transmissions, whether it's your engine, your brakes, or a $49 transmission special, Gears Transmissions will take care of you. And you know you're never going to get upsold, you're never going to get swindled, and you'll get to meet my friend Jay. My good friend Jay, who, by the way, if you like what we're doing here on the Whiskey Rebellion, this is part of Gears Productions. Gears Transmissions you can find online at gearstransmissions.com or in Panama City near the mall, just about a mile up 231 toward Interstate 10. On your left, it's right by the Dollar General. A few personal messages for our elected officials. First of all, do you know, I don't even like using the term official. I prefer to call them public servants. And they run for office and they make us promises and promises. You know, maybe we should add an 11th political reform. And that reform is this. If you go to Washington or you go to Tallahassee and you do the opposite of what you promised us when you courted us, when we dated, when you campaigned, if you do the opposite of what you said, after we elect you, you're forced to resign, or at least give us a mechanism to recall you. In some states, there are recall mechanisms. We need them here in Florida, but you can't recall U.S. Federal officials, representatives, servants. And I would like to say this to you, Senator Rubio. You're the worst offender. You promised that if we elected you, you would never push for amnesty. And you went to Washington and immediately joined the Gang of Ocho. And it was pretty cool to join the Gang of Ocho. You got to call Mom and say, "We're in the gang, Mom, we're in the Gang of Ocho." And I can imagine it now, the rest of them looking around for somebody to promote amnesty. And they say, let's get Marco. It's like the old Life commercial. Marco will do it. Marco will do anything. He's got a brown face. So they sent you out there, Marco, to push for amnesty. And you promised you wouldn't do that. Now, do you know what's going to happen if you get your way and we have, what, 20 million, 30 million, who knows, newly legal, illegal aliens? Do you know what damage that's going to do to American workers who are already having a hard enough time finding full-time work because of Obamacare? You promised you would go there and do the right thing. You promised you'd go there, Senator Rubio, and expand freedom and protect the family budget, and you've done just the opposite. Representative Steve Sutherland, when you and I went in 2009 to Washington, D.C. with Darrell Day, I never, ever heard you talk about wanting to spend $1 trillion on 1,000-page food stamp bills that we now call farm bills, ever. We said we were going to save this republic together, and I can't tell you how disappointed I am to see you bragging about spending $1 trillion on a 1,000-page food stamp bill that they call a farm bill. It's time to remember that it's our time in the world. It is our time to do all we can do, and it's an urgent time, don't you think? When you go to Washington or you go to Tallahassee, keep your word, do what you say you're going to do, and remember, we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to remember your votes, and there's going to be a price to pay for not keeping your word when you said you'd expand freedom and protect the family budget.
The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by Mace Tech. Encrypt your data before it goes online to make sure nobody else sees it. MaceTechSecurity.com. If you need to re-roof your home or have new construction, call my friends at Art Construction for a licensed and insured roofing contractor. 215-3948. Shore House Furniture, the largest showroom for coastal and fine furniture on the beach. On Back Beach Road, about a mile east of Pier Park.
Let's expand freedom and protect the family budget. You and me, right here every week on The Burnie Thompson Show, a Gears production. If you need your car worked on, take it where I get my car worked on. Gears Transmissions, whether it's your engine, your brakes, or a $49 transmission special, Gears Transmissions will take care of you. And you know you're never going to get upsold, you're never going to get swindled, and you'll get to meet my friend Jay, my good friend Jay, who, by the way, if you like what we're doing here on the Whiskey Rebellion, this is part of Gears Productions. Gears Transmissions you can find online at gearstransmissions.com or in Panama City near the mall, just about a mile up 231 toward Interstate 10. On your left, it's right by the Dollar General.